A beautiful icon for an entire era, she seemed to have it all, but then slipped into an increasingly reclusive nightmare of phobias, near-death experiences, family tragedy, and as we reveal for the first time tonight, a more recent and truly shocking personal relationship.
Can you imagine? Ever since I was a child, I was crazy about her. And now here she was, sitting on my lap. It was a dream.
Today, Agnetha lives in isolation on a remote farmhouse on the island of Eckerö, shunning public appearances and fueling speculation in the media. Last year, she broke her silence, giving her first TV interview for 17 years, seen here for the first time in Britain.
Jag försöker ha det väldigt tyst omkring mig i den mån det går. Det är inte så lätt nu för tiden. Men jag blir lätt stressad. Och jag är en väldigt orolig person också.
Agnetha is quiet, doesn't want to talk to people. She don't see much people. I think she's been here most of her time after ABBA. She got a big house, lots of horses. Agnetha is quite a lonely woman.
The isolation and the withdrawal of Agnetha is due to fears.
Speculation over the reclusive singer reached fever pitch in 2000, when she unexpectedly resurfaced in court. Agnetha was attempting to get a restraining order taken out on a stalker. But in the most shocking twist of all, it emerged this stalker had also become her lover, in a relationship which had lasted for 2 years.
I first heard about Gert about 3 years ago. I thought it was a nutcase. He was stalking Agnetha and he really thought that they would get married. I think he's sick on the inside, really sick.
I would love to go back to Sweden, but the situation has to change. I wouldn't want to accidentally bump into Agnetha again and be involved in another court case.
Gert van der Graaf had been charged with plaguing Agnetha by telephone, following her in public and bombarding her with over 80 letters, and was found guilty on 10 counts of harassment. The judge said Gert showed signs of mental disability and had him deported back to his native Holland.
This is my house. I've decorated it in a Swedish style. It's a small bed. I wouldn't mind a wider one. I always have a picture of her nearby. I always want to be able to see a picture of her.
As well as a comprehensive memorabilia collection, Gert also has several letters he says he received from Agnetha.
These are my letters from Agnetha. I'd written her many more than she had written me. They often contain touching thoughts, private thoughts. This is a letter after our holiday together. Our love grows stronger and stronger. Your eyes, your warm hands, your soft embrace, your mouth. Thank you for a wonderful weekend.
Den här mannen som förföljde dig, är du utsatt för honom nu?
Jag vet inte om jag kan gå in och prata för mycket om det. Jag tror inte att jag gör det. För av säkerhetsskäl så kan jag inte göra det. Så vill jag ligga lite lågt där.
Är det här någonting som bekymrar dig?
Ja, det är det.
So how did pop's one-time golden girl reach such a grim chapter in her bizarre life story? In part 2, we trace the roots of those consuming fears and phobias which would lead Agnetha into increasing isolation and a dangerously weird affair.
It started very tender, but became more passionate. Step by step. I think everyone knows what I mean.
She was 13 and 14 years old. I gave her the opportunity to sing in front of the class, which inspired her and encouraged us.
On April the 5th, 1950, Agnetha Faltskog was born in the town of Jönköping. Situated on the shore of Sweden's second largest lake, Jönköping's original claim to fame was its preeminence in the field of safety match manufacture.
Det är inte så ofta som man har.
I've never had such a good student as Agnetha in my class, let alone a student who went on to be as successful as she is.
A precocious singer, pianist and composer, Agnetha didn't hang around. Just 12 months after leaving school, she attended her first recording session in Stockholm.
Jag tänker på att det var den första plattan jag gjorde. Och hur fruktansvärt nervös jag var när jag skulle spela in den. För att jag var ju bara 17 år och hade aldrig varit uppe i Stockholm, så att jag tog med min pappa. Jag skulle hålla handen. Så när vi kom dit, och jag kommer ihåg att jag gick ner för en trappa så här. Ungefär som jag känner mig nu. Ja, så hörde jag att de la på stråkar. Och då hörde jag, gud alltså, det är min låt. Jag fattade inte att det var sant.
The teenage Agnetha went on to release a string of self-penned hits, but she was already uncomfortable with her growing fame and battling her natural shyness.
The first time I met Agnetha was in the record company. I was quite amazed about her voice. She had a clear, nice voice. I thought she had a good chance to survive the business if she could manage to overcome this shyness.
Forced to travel to promote her solo career. She chose to go by coach, but another on-tour brush with death would force her to withdraw even more.
We came up late at night through Sweden. It was cold and rainy and very dark, and the roads were slippery. Suddenly there was a red light, and he put on the brakes. And the whole coach turned around and fell over, and Agnetha was thrown out of the window. Everybody said it was a miracle that we could survive such a crash. And she didn't dare to drive after that, and she didn't want to travel. She doesn't travel. She doesn't ever move around.
The next year, 1984, Agnetha suffered another blow, as Bjorn moved to England and Agnetha was left with sole custody of their children. Agnetha isolated herself in a farmhouse surrounded by acres of land on an island outside Stockholm. After her divorce from Bjorn, Agnetha was constantly in the press, as she had a string of short-lived relationships with a wide cross-section of Swedish society, including an ice hockey player, her bodyguard, and her analyst. In 1987, she started seeing American record producer Bruce Gage.
At home, she was just a sweetheart, you know, and was a great cook and a fun person to be with, you know. And you go out, then all of a sudden all of her insecurities and what's the word, fears. I mean, her these fears that have been built up over the years would show, you know. She wasn't happy because the lighting of the restaurant would be too bright and people might recognize her, and then just the opposite would happen, you know, that it would be too dark and she, you know, was afraid she wouldn't get noticed. I didn't want to be Mr. Faltskog. I know that if I had gone there, it would have been her career that I was working on, probably to exclude anything else, because she was jealous of anything else.
What is happening with her, I think, is that she does get bored. She's out to get the passion and the spark out of the first love. And when that is over, she moves on to somebody else.
By the late 80s, Agnetha had begun what was to be a 17-year withdrawal from public life. As she appeared less and less frequently in public, the media began to latch on to her obsession with privacy and solitude.
Av en bild på en människa så tror man till slut så. Om mig har det stått till exempel att jag har stängt mig in eller isolerat mig ute på Ekerö, vilket jag inte alls har gjort. Utan det har man liksom skapat den bilden då att jag har stängt inne mig där för att jag inte syns så himla ofta. Och det är ju inte alls så det är.
In 1990, Agnetha married surgeon Thomas Sonnenfeld. They were divorced within 3 years. But far worse was to come for Agnetha. In 1994, her mother died in a tragic fall from her 6th-story window. It has more recently been reported as suicide. Her father died just 1 year later.
She was naturally deeply, deeply shaken. It was a horrible time for her. I don't know how she or anybody could stand such a thing. It was too much, really.
I was working long hours and was very tired. And that's when I had a car crash. When I was recovering, I wrote her a letter about what had happened. I heard a knock, knock, knock on the front door. It was her, standing at my front door with her friend. I looked Agnetha straight in the eye. It was my boyhood dream come true. Agnetha, hello. Fortunately, because of the letter writing, we knew how to communicate with each other. So I knew exactly what to say. I invited them in for coffee. Her friend was chatting a lot, asking questions and so on. But she might as well have been in the other room. I was just concentrating on Agnetha. Our first kiss was on that first evening. But there was much more to it than that. Yes, Agnetha, she was my first. I've had girlfriends before, but never any sexual relationships. I thought she really enjoyed it. Afterwards, when we were recovering next to each other, we did remark on how it was possible that we had found ourselves in this position.
Dat wij zo samen hier naast elkaar liggen en zo.